I have been a longtime user of the Krause Publishing Standard Catalog of World Coins, and if you've never seen one, it is a big book. This is the size of more than a phone book. It's a large volume. This one's going to be about 1,300 pages in quite a large book. And not only that, there are multiple volumes. There is a 1600s, 1700s, this is the 1800s, 1900s, and since 2000, they also have some additional guides like the catalog of unusual world coins. These catalogs are great if you want to know detailed information about all of the world's coins. But there's some bad news. If you didn't realize it, in 2019, Krause Publishing went bankrupt, and they may never update this catalog ever again. I believe it's Penguin Random House that has the current rights to make these catalogs. They also had some magazines that went to a different publisher, I believe. But so some of these older coin volumes, the 1900s and older, the information on them really is not going to change, although the prices might change in that going forward. But it's the newer catalog that also is, we're not going to see the newer coins in them. But probably the biggest concern is after a few years, the prices on these coins are going to go up just like the cost of everything goes up. But they're not the only coin catalog out there. So for the first time, I went and purchased the coin catalog that is still being made. This one is the Yeoman catalog. The catalog of modern world coins, 1850 to 1964. It's made by Whitman Publishing, the official Red Book, and if you've never seen Whitman before, this is a company that does make a lot of coin supplies and U.S. coin catalogs as well. This is the 15th edition. It was published in 2023. And so the good news is, while it might not be published as often as the Krause catalog was, this one is still being published, and so in theory, the prices that are reflected in this catalog are going to be more up to date and will be updated in the future, probably in a future volume someday, at least we hope. So in this video, we're going to talk about the differences between the two catalogs, and well, at least if you've always used the Krause catalog like I have, what I have found to be the differences. Now, the obvious difference is how much smaller the Yeoman catalog is compared to the Krause catalog. So that's the first obvious thing. The second obvious thing is the years that are covered on here. This catalog only covers coins from 1850 to 1964. There's not an older volume. There's not a newer volume for newer coins. These are the only years that are covered. So I've spent a good bit of time today trying to figure out all the differences between the two. The first thing I want to figure out is, why is this book smaller? And as we talk about the differences, I'm going to show off some coins that were in my last video. But as an example, we're going to take this coin from the country of Jersey. This is a 1/13 of a shilling. It was made from 1841 through 1865. Since the coin that I purchased was in 1858, this is how I marked it. I said it was fine condition. And as we look through here, we're going to see that every year of this coin is listed individually. So that way we can tell the mintage figures of each coin. And by the way, I am looking in the larger Krause catalog at the moment. So we have a price for every year. On some years, there are proof coins, and so it lists them out as well. And then we have multiple grading options on here, from fine, very fine, extra fine, uncirculated, and brilliant uncirculated. If you have the 2019 version of this catalog, it's going to replace uncirculated with MS60. You're going to have MS63 and MS65. So it's no longer going to say brilliant uncirculated, but you're going to have two extra classes on here. We also have a catalog number of KM3. This Krause Publishing had and came up with the Krause Mishler number, which they assigned to every coin to kind of give it a catalog number of what you're looking at. So this is going to be Krause Mishler number 3 for this coin. Now let's look up this same coin in the other catalog. So I found the coin in the Jersey catalog. There is the picture of it. And what we're going to see here is if you take a look, there is 3 lines underneath this picture. We've got, this is not the one line for every year. Instead, we have 3 different coins listed under this one picture. So I had the 1/13th of a shilling, but this part of the page lists the 1/26th of a shilling and 1/52nd of a shilling. So those are 3 different coin denominations. Those are 3 different coins. And so in this case, it was made in this, they've lumped the eras together. They made 3 coins, or at least 3 copper coins at this time, and they've lumped them all together. They've only shown us one picture, and then instead of listing out every year, they list one price for the coin regardless of what year it is. So it's not paying attention to key dates, it's not paying attention to any varieties or anything along those lines. We have one listing. So our specific coin, this edition of the catalog has included the Krause Mishler number, but the Yeoman catalog had their own numbering system called the Y number, Y for Yeoman. In this case, they line up. So 1, 2, and 3 tells us that it's made out of copper. And it doesn't matter what date you have the coin. If you had it in very fine condition, it would be listed as $10. But then they make a note on here that there are proof versions available. And so it does add a line just for proofs. So if you had any date of a proof, it would be listed as 600. But if there is a special key date, the key date is also listed here as a separate price of $18.50. So they're trying to keep the number of lines to a minimum. Now, I will point out that if you have a coin that crossed over from one book to another one, let's take, for example, the Swiss franc. They made those from about the 1850s or so to the 1900s. And so they're going to stop listing them when you're in the 1800s catalog. It's going to list it up to the year 1900 and then stop listing it. And then in the next book, it's going to pick up at 1901 and then go to the end of 2000. And so they'll have each line listed individually, but since you have some in the older catalog, you have some in the newer catalog, when you're looking in the 1800s catalog, it doesn't tell you how far they continue to make the coin into the future, and that can be frustrating. In this catalog, this catalog only includes 1850s, but they've gone ahead and told us that even though this catalog doesn't include 1850s, it doesn't include 1841, since this was made after 1850, they're going to put all of the years that the coin was available on here. Now, the 1900, when you look up that Swiss coin in 1901, it might say that this was previously minted from 18 whatever till 1900. You'll find some older date versions of the coin. But it is kind of frustrating that you don't know how far in the future they made some coins with the Krause catalog. So why do they list only one listing for every coin instead of every year that it was made? Well, in the foreword, they had the old foreword originally written by Mr. Yeoman, who has since passed away. They quote his original foreword, which said that most world coin collectors are only interested in one coin of every type, and so that makes it unnecessary information. You don't have to know what the key dates are. You don't have to know what all of the varieties are if you're only picking one per coin. So if you need to put together a complete set of every Swiss franc, this is not the book for you. You would have to go with the bigger Krause catalog. So a drawback of this book is that if you have the 1/26th of a shilling, you're not going to have a picture of it. You're only going to have the one picture of the other coin of this era, which is, and for this time, they have used the 1/13 of a shilling, but if you have another coin, you're not going to see a picture of it. You're going to have to start going through here and looking by date until you find it. The bigger catalog is, of course, bigger, and so you're more likely to have one picture of every coin. Especially in the 1900s and the 2000s, you definitely, for most coins, will have a picture of every one. Now, there are a lot of varieties in some of the older volumes where you'll get one, but there's so minor differences that they're not going to give you a picture of everything, or this would be a 2,000-page book, or maybe it's just hard to get some pictures of the other ones when you get older, into the older coins. So I've hinted that the section here are arranged by date, whereas this catalog is usually arranged by coin type. So if you went to Britain, you would start by finding the lowest denomination coins. That would be, for the most part, the farthing, and it would list all of the farthings. And then it would go to the next biggest coin, which is the halfpenny, and it would list all the halfpennies from Victoria to the next king to the next king to the next king, all the way up to Queen Elizabeth. And then you would go to the full 1 penny, and it would list all those. It would list the 2 penny, which was kind of rare, the 3 pence from Victoria all the way through Elizabeth, and it would just go that way until you got all the way up to the gold coins. In this edition, let's show you how it's arranged. It's completely chronological. So we're starting with a copper half farthing, and then a little bit in the future we've got the farthing, the halfpenny, and the 1 penny, all the copper coins. Then we have the bronze coin era, which were a few years later. Then we make it to the silver 1.5 pence, which didn't last very long, silver 3 pence, the 4 pence, and then let's scoot on to, just to scoot ahead of the future, we have the newer portrait of Victoria on the next page. And then we come to Edward VII. We've got the Edward VII copper coins. We've got the Edward VII silver, 3 and 6 pence. We've got the shilling, the silver coins. We've got the crown. We've got the Maundy coins have their own page. And then we've got the gold. Then it skips over to George VI, and it lists all of his. We've got all the bronze coins. So we've got the farthing half, another half that has a variety. It doesn't say what the variety is. The penny, and then another version of the penny. So this book is completely chronological instead of listing all of the pennies all by themselves. Now the Krause catalog will stop and make a break in when there was a change in the currency. So for instance, the pre-decimal system ended in the late 60s and early 70s. They went to their decimal system where you had the half pence, the 1 pence, all the way up to the pound is 100 pence. Since that was a completely different system, they kind of did a break and started over with the new coins at that time. I've noticed in this catalog the coin is not actually always the actual size on here. I guess that looks pretty close, but sometimes that's important because you actually need to take your coin and set it on the coin in the picture just to make sure you have the right one. But if you don't have a picture of the penny from this area, you can't really set it on there just to know which one you've got. And that's helpful for some of the older coins that don't even have a denomination written on them. You have to just set it on it and see which one you've got. In the Begg catalog, I'm told that pretty much every country you can ever think of is included in these volumes. I have been told that this book lists has a cap of 300 countries, many of which are older countries that don't exist today. Although I couldn't find anything that would be during this age that is in this catalog, but not in this catalog. One of the more obscure things I looked up was the German money for when they occupied some of the Eastern Europe area. So around the Russia coins, they made some rubles for their military. That's pretty obscure, and it was still in this book since it was a coin that actually did circulate. Here's something else that's missing from the Yeoman catalog. This is the United States, the pages of the United States half dollars, which were intended to be completely commemorative coins and to never circulate. And so we have a full page of different designs on here. Since they were never intended to circulate, they do appear in this Krause catalog, but they will not appear in the Yeoman catalog because they were never intended to circulate. So that's something else they can do to cut down on space. And I kind of like that because in one sense, I do need something that tells me what they all are. But in the newest catalog, you can get to some of the countries like the Marshall Islands or Niue or some of these other British-controlled places where it's just page after page after page of commemoratives that don't need to be in there. So I'm glad that those are missing out of the Yeoman catalog, although it is a newer phenomenon, but the United States still did it a lot, even in the early 1900s, as seen on these pages. Now, I mentioned earlier that there are going to be more grades listed in the Krause catalog. So we've got fine, very fine. Pay attention to XF for extra fine, and then uncirculated on here. It's a little bit different in the Yeoman smaller catalog. So XF stands for extra fine, but the Yeoman catalog uses EF instead of XF, and they say that EF stands for extremely fine. So I thought that was an interesting thing to note. So here we are at Switzerland. Here's a picture of a 5 francs. We're back into the larger Krause catalog, and so it's actually going to list underneath this every coin the silver content. So this one is a 90% silver coin that has a silver weight, and it actually lists the actual weight of the coin by the coin. Now I'm in the smaller Yeoman catalog. Here we have the same coin, the 5 franc. It says it's made out of silver, but it doesn't list the silver weight on this screen. Instead, I have to flip back over to the beginning of the Switzerland chapter, and here in the front, it's going to list all of the coins and the silver content in a chart. So that one was the 5 francs, and at that era of until 1928, it was 90% silver. It has the weight in grams if you like it by grams, and then if you like it in ounces. So some people prefer grams, so that is kind of a nice touch on here. So there's the original weight of the coin. The fineness gives you that many grams, and then there it is in ounces. So a bigger book is going to cost more, and especially if it's more thorough. So what does the big book cost? The original sticker price on this Krause catalog, $85. This is, I think, the 2013 version of this coin. That's a lot of money to invest in the coin. I always told people that if you're going to go for the Krause catalog, just go on Amazon, look under the used listings, and just find whichever one you can find is the cheapest. I did not buy this one new. I actually bought this as something that a library sold off. But then you compare that to this brand new book. The price on this was $30. Here we go, $30. So if you're starting out, this one probably is for you for most people, if nothing else for the price. If you want to be thorough, try and find the old books used, but if you want something that is more modern, that you want it brand new, this one is a good place to start. One thing I liked about the back is it lists who should collect or who should read this book. And new hobbyists attracted to the coins by the recent hot market. So I hope the coin market is a hot market. But it mentioned how there's some people out there who are one from every country collectors. And I just mentioned in my last video that I finally got my 300th different country. And then also it says U.S. coin collectors looking to branch out into an interesting new field. That is definitely me. I found world coins to be much more exciting than American coins, just because when I started, no coins had changed in my entire lifetime. When I started collecting coins in my early 20s, they had all stayed exactly the same for my entire life up to that point. I did want to look up some prices of coins that were in my last video just to see what it would say would be the price in both catalogs. And to do that, I had to pick something, even if it was worse than this coin's not very fine, but I'm going to say it's very fine because that was the price that was listed in both catalogs. This one had one of the biggest splits. The big Krause catalog says this book's for 20 if it was very fine. The smaller Yeoman catalog says it books for 10. I was surprised that Lundy was actually in the smaller Yeoman catalog, even though it wasn't a legitimate country, but it was something which legitimately did circulate for a time. I spent a lot more time talking about this in my last video. Krause says it's 25, but the Yeoman book says that one is 30. Let's move to this coin from Sweden. We're going to pretend that it is very fine. We're going to pretend that's in focus. Come on. All right, so this one's from 1874 from Sweden. The Krause catalog says 1250. The Yeoman says it's 10. Let's get this Algerian coin from 1964. Krause says this one is 25 cents at extra fine. Yeoman says it's $2. This next one is an Egyptian coin that is 1/2, and this one might be clean, but we're going to say uncirculated on this one. The Krause, the Yeoman book, the smaller book said it was 25. The Krause catalog had this one at $14 at uncirculated MS60, but $25 at MS63. And so one thing you'll notice about the larger Krause catalog is you'll have one price for uncirculated, but for the people that want to get it professionally graded, there can be a huge premium to get it certified as an MS63 or MS65. Yeoman doesn't go to that level of effort. So Morocco, where is my Morocco coin? This one is a 50 centimes. This is one where there is a variety on whether or not you have a lightning bolt in this empty space right here. The Yeoman book doesn't care. Both books say that this coin is $2. Another Morocco coin, the older Krause says this one is $1, and the new book, Yeoman book, says that one is $1.50. Let's look at a Jamaica farthing. The Krause catalog, let's pretend this one was very fine. Krause says that it is $2, and the Yeoman says it's $1.75. We were looking at the Jamaica penny just a moment ago, and if we were going to call this one uncirculated MS60, this one is $1 in Krause and $1.25 in Yeoman. And then the last coin we're going to examine here is this uncirculated coin from New Caledonia, where Krause says it's $3.50 and the Yeoman book says it's $5. So most everything here, you can kind of tell that there is a reasonable difference in price between them, or that they're about the same in most cases. So now I'm going to say who should get each book. So this Yeoman book might be better for someone who is starting out because it's not going to overwhelm you with as much information. The only drawback I see for someone starting out is it might be harder to find your coin if your coin is not photographed. This coin is cheaper, so if you're starting out, you might not want to dedicate $90 to a new book if you can even find the Krause catalog, because they might be selling new copies of they might still be printing new copies, and they may never update it, but you might not want to pay $90 for the big book, whereas this book is $30. If you're not interested in varieties, if you're not interested in how one year might be worth more than another year, then this book is for you. When you get more involved, that's when you might need to get this book, especially since this book, eventually you might want to purchase all 5 volumes. However, I don't have the 1600s or the 1700s because I just don't have enough of those. Of course, you can always look up things for free and just track them in Excel or a notepad or something like that. But I feel like you ought to have something where you can at least mark the ones that you physically own. So I do recommend that most people have a paper copy. It doesn't have to be the newest one. It just has to be one. Of course, the other drawback of the smaller catalog is it's not going to have anything newer than something that started after 1964. But the nice thing about this range of coins is that it does include all of the, when most countries were using silver, they were using silver up until about 1964, give or take. And so you're going to miss a lot of the newer coins on this. So you can't come up with your entire collection with just this volume. And so that is, actually, come to think of it, that is a pretty big drawback because they don't have anything in here that's newer than about, I guess that's 60 years. So they don't have, and most of the coins you're going to find these days might be this side of 1964. So this one is a nice place to start, but it's not going to have many of the things that you need. If you do want to buy this one, I'm going to have an affiliate link to Amazon where you can pick this book up if I've convinced you that this one is the one for you. I will say that if you know where to look, you can find PDFs of the big catalogs online. So that is one thing that you might want to look out for also. That's kind of a quasi-legal thing. I've seen it on legitimate websites, so maybe it's an okay thing to come up with, but still, I thought it was worth getting this book, especially since we need someone to still make books in the future. All right, until next time, I'll show off some more coins. Until then, bye.